my favorite skill acquisition analogy that I think will just hammer this point across a little bit better. So it's a tale of two tigers. There's two tigers. One's a zoo tiger, one's a jungle tiger. And obviously these two tigers, they live in very different environments. The zoo tiger, his life is easy. He has everything he needs, food, shelter, water, everything's given to him. His life has no variability, right? Every day's the same. It's scheduled. He eats at the same time, sleeps at the same time. He makes very few decisions on his own. His life has no struggle, no challenges, no problems, no obstacles. He doesn't fail and he doesn't learn. The jungle tiger, his life is very different, right? His life is difficult. He is on his own. He has to hunt or he won't eat, find water or he won't drink. He has to protect himself and his family on his own, and every day is difficult. Every day he faces new problems, new challenges, new obstacles he must overcome. The jungle tiger struggles on a daily basis. He makes a lot of mistakes, but he's always learning. So I want you guys to think about that in our practice, right? In training for hockey. What would happen if you took that zoo tiger and you put him in the wild? How do you guys think he would do?
He'd die.
Why is that?
He wouldn't know how to adapt to his environment.
You don't think he would be able to adapt? Okay. I mean, I would agree with that 100%, right? He doesn't have the skills to survive. He never practiced those skills, was never tested on his jungle survival skills when he was in the zoo. So why don't you think he'll be able to adapt?
He's just never been able to learn because he's never had any difference or change in his life.
Exactly. He's never had to make a decision before, and decision making and problem solving and adaptability, that's also a skill, right? That's something you have to learn. If you don't use it, it's not a trait you'll have, and it's not a switch that you can just turn on when you get into the wild, right? Does this sound like us in games at all? Sometimes we practice in the zoo, right? Our practices, they're repetitive and non-contextual or game realistic. And we're not always working on skills in their complete form as they are in a game. But when a game comes, we're asked to perform. We're asked to make decisions. We're asked to do these things that we've never been asked before until we got into the wild, until we got into a game. Are we able to just magically turn them on, just on a whim? What do you guys think? Is it similar to that tiger? What do you guys think happens to the jungle tiger, right? The jungle tiger, how does he do in the wild?
He thrives in the wild because he's already experienced those hard situations.
Exactly. He has those skills. He's worked on them every day. The jungle tigers learn to survive in the wild by spending time in the wild. Doesn't this sound like our training for hockey? Like what we've been stressing this first week with you guys? The jungle, it's game realistic practice. It's a struggle. The goal is to push our players to the edge of their abilities, right? To force them to make a lot of decisions. It's where we want to live in our training because that's where the highest transfer is. If we can execute skills in this type of practice environment, we can execute them in a game. This quote, this is someone me and John have read a lot of. He's one of the top skill acquisition researchers in the world right now. And this kind of sums this story up for me and why I started thinking about these tigers. You cannot adapt to an environment that you don't inhabit, right? Just like the tigers, if we want to be more skilled in games, we need to live in that environment in our practices. Our practices must look, feel, and act like the game if we want to be successful in the game. So last question on the tigers, last tough one for you guys. What if you took that jungle tiger and you put him in a jungle on another continent? How do you guys think he will do? Let's say the terrain and the weather are like pretty similar, right? Not exact, but pretty similar. How do you think he'll do?
I think he'll do just fine.
Why is that?
Because he's already experienced what he needs to do to survive, or he can translate it to a different area.
That's great. I'd agree, right? I think he'd do all right. He might not have the skills right now to be successful in that new environment, but I think he'd develop them because in his old environment, he's already had to learn how to problem solve, adapt. I think those skills would translate and allow him to adapt to that new environment, right? This adaptability is where we want to get you guys. I think of this new jungle on this new continent as you guys making that jump from Bantam to high school, right? From JV to varsity and varsity to junior hockey. It's that next level. The game changes a little bit, right? And what made you successful at one level might not make you as successful at the next. So you got to figure out a way to change your game and be adaptable, or you won't be successful. We've done our entry interviews, most of us. I think there's just a couple left. And a big thing we talked about was those translatable skills, those things that at every level you play at will make you successful. That's what we're after. And those things are trainable. Okay. And a big thing with those is we want to give you as many tools in your tool belt as you can. So when one option is taken away, then you can use another. And when that option is taken away, you can use another. So we want you to become multi-threat, multi-tool players where it doesn't matter the environment you're in, you'll find a way, you'll find a tool to be successful in it. And this adaptability can be trained. That's why we want to train in the jungle. Like, we want to make it hard. We want to make it realistic to the game environment. It's kind of cheesy, but I believe in this. Train in the jungle to survive in the wild. So just like the jungle is hard and unpredictable, our practices need to be hard and variable and game realistic. To really learn and grow, we need to struggle. We need to test our limits. We need to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And our practices are intentionally designed just to do that. We're going to push you guys out of your comfort zone. We're going to force a lot of decision making. We're going to represent the game by creating game realistic problems. We're going to learn from our mistakes, and we're going to make a lot of mistakes, just like a game, but we're going to use them as opportunities to grow. And then this one is probably not super common. We're going to test, not tell. So instead of the zookeeper making all the decisions for that zoo tiger, we're after long-term learning, not these quick fixes. So we're going to encourage you guys to solve the problems for yourselves. Instead of just explicitly telling and giving you the answer all the time, we'd rather guide you and help highlight things you guys can pay attention to. So you guys have already figured that out after this first week. We like to ask questions. We ask you guys a lot of questions like, what were you seeing? What were your options? How can you be more successful next time? What else can you do? Why did that person succeed? And that's because we want to always be learning. We want to use every moment in our practices as an opportunity to learn. We want you to review, watch, and discuss after every rep. Review what you did well and what you could have done better, then watch others as they go, and then discuss with your teammates and the coach. We want to capitalize on self-reflection, learning from that, and observational learning. And that last point, okay, the always learning, I think it's super, super important, but it's where this tiger analogy falls short. And that's where we get into talking about our video analysis, right? Tigers are reactive and they really only learn from experience, but luckily we're different.